is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And we are in week 2 of the NCAA volleyball. It's a really good thing. Here, we're not going to stop. Y'all, the train is going to keep on going. So we have previews for this week. Texas State is 2-0. Can they go 3-0 and maybe 4-0 against UTEP not once, but twice? And the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns, can they keep up their momentum? Or will the Ragin' Cajuns not be raging anymore? And we have other previews from Stephen F. Austin, Arkansas State, Central Arkansas, and many more here on Set Point. Volleyball season has returned. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Village Refuge. We're out. We're all that is sports. And welcome everybody to another edition of Set Point. Hopefully my sound didn't change too much because I kind of accidentally forgot to set the headset, but that's not too terrible. So, yeah. So without any further delay, let's get on in to these matchups. So, quick and dirty, Texas State is the best team as of right now when it comes to the NCAA. And That's a well-known fact, and there's no need for debate. So until like Texas plays, until like University of Texas plays, or until like Baylor plays, or anything, or any of the other sort plays. So yeah. So now for the volleyball matches for this week. So on 9/11, which we will be giving a little honor for on Friday when the SoCal Supreme Sports Show goes live. We have UTEP and Texas at Texas State. That's going to be the first of a 2-game series, and it's a non-conference game, so no need to worry about games counting for conference in terms of conference games or not. So, I definitely gotta go with Texas State. There's no way. I mean, I don't see the Bobcats losing for quite some time. So. Yeah, I mean, I think Texas State is going to have probably somewhat of an easy time. I don't see a whole lot of teams, like, challenging them. Like, I think Texas State is on its A game. So, yeah. So, next matchup is South Alabama and Louisiana, and I'm not going in particular order. I just saw them in the order that I found them in. So, South Alabama and Louisiana. And now I'm also going to be recording my predictions. I want to make this a little fun, so make sure if I'm actually predicting correctly, or if I'm still not like on the top of my volleyball game. So anyway, so South Alabama at Louisiana. The Ragin' Cajuns have done a great job through the first 2 games, but they beat Houston Baptist. South Alabama has a big challenge ahead of them. I gotta go with the Ragin' Cajuns. I gotta go with Louisiana. Why? Because I think Louisiana at the moment has strong momentum going into this game. I mean, they're kind of on par with Texas State, honestly. And me personally, I think Louisiana wowed me the most, along with Texas State. So I gotta go with Louisiana over South Alabama. And then we've got Little Rock at Central Arkansas. I think this is going to be a Sun Belt Conference game, which, if that is the case, then that there's going to be more than just wins and losses. It's going to be counting toward the record. So if I could just pull up the docket where the NCAA volleyball news is, I can go. I can pretty much go to that. But right now, it's a tough one to predict. I mean, this is kind of a home crosstown rivalry between Central Arkansas and Little Rock, and me personally, I want to say that Central Arkansas will win. I mean, I don't know too much about either of those teams, but honestly, I think Central Arkansas wins in a 5-set thriller, and it wouldn't shock me if they pulled off the victory. And it's a rivalry game, so honestly, I think Central Arkansas takes it. And shout out to Larry B that's in the chat room. Appreciate you taking time out of your day and doing so and supporting me in the chat room. Great, good on you, good sir. And hopefully you'll still be tuning in. But if you're too busy, then don't worry about it. So anyway, so Arkansas State and Little Rock. Yeah, I gotta go with I'm going with Central Arkansas. I'm going with Central Arkansas. Why I say Arkansas State? So I'm gonna go with Central Arkansas because I've never known. I haven't seen Little Rock be a good team. I mean, and little did I know that Central Arkansas isn't in the Sun Belt Conference. They're in an independent. And to me, I think Central Arkansas has gotten their feet wet a lot more. So I gotta go Central Arkansas. They've already played. Little Rock hasn't, and I've never really known for Little Rock being a women's volleyball school. So I'll take Central Arkansas for this one. So Lamar versus Louisiana Monroe. So Lamar is playing its first game, and I guess these are crossover games. Like, I know Lamar is a independent school because of this whole coronavirus shutdown. So, and then UNL Monroe is also in the Sun Belt Conference. Tough to pick because UNL Monroe apparently is slated to be the worst team in the Sun Belt Conference. As for Lamar, they haven't played any games, but UNL Monroe hasn't either. Tough to pick. I mean, Lamar, I'm gonna go Lamar. I'm gonna go Lamar and say they win that one in 5. I'll say Lamar over Louisiana Monroe. So cool beans. And then Louisiana Monroe has another matchup against Stephen F. Austin. So that's gonna be like a try meet. So between Lamar, Louisiana Monroe, and Stephen F. Austin. So Louisiana Monroe plays Stephen F. Austin on 9/11 as well this Friday. I gotta go with Stephen F. Austin. Despite them only splitting their first 2 games, Stephen F. Austin's a pretty good team, and I think their loss against Texas State doesn't reflect how good of a team they are. So I gotta go with the Lady Jacks on that one. So give me Stephen F. Austin to win against Louisiana Monroe. And also give me Stephen F. Austin to beat Lamar later on in the day as well. And I do believe the tri-meet is going to be at Stephen F. Austin. So I got Stephen F. Austin going 2-0 on Friday. So just to recap, Texas State, Louisiana, Central Arkansas, Lamar, Stephen F. Austin against Louisiana Monroe, and Stephen F. Austin against Lamar. So those are my picks for the 9/11 games. So now let's actually take a little break from the predictions, and let's get into some volleyball news right now, because we actually have some volleyball commitment news. So it is time to cue the news music. So this was reported first by our friends at the 562, which covers all things Long Beach, and they reported on another talented player from Long Beach Poly making her commitment to a Power 5 conference school. So Riley McInnes, much easier name than the other player that committed from Long Beach Poly. So Riley McInnes, the junior middle blocker from Long Beach Poly, who is going to be talented this year. So, and that junior class is looking talented as well. So, without any further delay, middle Long Beach Poly star Riley McInnes has committed to. Can we get a drum roll, please? The University of Southern California. Okay, it's not that big, but another player from Long Beach Poly has committed to USC. So good on the Trojans. They are getting some really talented young players. And like I said, the Mike Gardabasio of the 562 first reported on this, and she when she got an offer, she committed to them right on the spot, according to her. So she was an all-Moore League freshman during her freshman and sophomore year, and she chose USC for a number of reasons, such as she likes the campus, she likes the academics, and she's gone to a lot of games in the Galen Center, and she likes the coaches. So, and for those of you that don't know, Riley McInnes is actually the daughter of former USC football player Willie McInnes, who was an All-American and a Hall of Famer for USC before he had a successful NFL career, which included him winning 3 Super Bowls. So good for Riley McInnes. She basically gets to live up to her father, and not live up to her father, but she basically gets to play at USC just like her father did when he played when he played football there. So Riley and Adania Fa'umuina will both be playing at USC in a couple more years. They still have to get through their junior year of high school, and they also have to get through their senior year of high school. So USC shouldn't be looking too far down the road, but that is going to be a big time pickups for them. So in practically 2 more years, we will be seeing those 2 players playing for the Women of Troy. So once again, congratulations to Riley McInnes, great family that the McInnes family is, and that future of USC is looking bright. So can we get one more applause for USC? So once again, congratulations to Riley McInnes, and I didn't even know I didn't have my mic on mute, so you might have heard a double echo, but that's totally fine. So Riley McInnes is a USC Trojan, and that is that for the commitment news. Now, there was also some other fascinating news that swarmed the weekend, which it's not bad news, but it's quite interesting. It was quite interesting news. Well, first and foremost, before I get to this next story, just in case everyone is living under a rock, the NCAA Division I committee will be having a meeting from 1 week from tomorrow to discuss what's going to be happening with the fall sports championships, according to Long Beach State women's volleyball coach Joy Mackenzie Furbringer, which I managed to get the little scoop on when I interviewed her from last week, when I did a story for the school newspaper, the Daily 49er. So I'm putting my journalism skills to the test, as well as my investigating skills. So yes, I had to play that. But yeah, that's really cool. That's actually very interesting, and that's not too far away from here. So honestly, I'm very interested to see what the Division I committee has to say. I really hope they do make a decision. I hope they don't postpone it to next week or the week after. because that would be stupid. So, uh, I I can only hope that the Division One committee makes the decision on whether they're going to have the fall sports championships in the spring or the winter, because you also have to remember the fall if we're all the fall sports championships are going to have to deal with the winter sports championships, which is basketball, and then there's also the spring sports as well. Like for the case of women's volleyball, they're basically going to have to like share the gym with women's basketball, men's basketball, and then men's volleyball as well. So it's going to be very tough. And you also have to factor in that there are a whole lot of teams from the NCAA that have postponed their season due to the conference postponing their fall sports. Like the Pac-12 postponing everything until the end of the calendar year. And same with the Big West. And the Big Ten postponed all their fall sports as well. So it still makes me wonder what's going to happen to those teams when the all the other teams have finished their season, like the Big 12, the ACC, the Sun Belt Conference, and all the independent schools. And it's just an interesting can of worms that's been opened. So I still have to wonder. And again, it's just food for thought on my part, because maybe they'll give the fall women's volleyball teams time to rest and practice and scout the competition. And then they'll give them time to like see what the Pac-12, the Big West, and the Big Ten have to offer. And yeah, it's really going to be interesting what this meeting unfolds on September 16th. So it's a nice little nugget that Coach Mackenzie Furbringer gave to me, and I like it. So I hope for the best, and I hope that we get some sort of answer to all these questions, especially with some of these Power 5 conferences like the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the Big West. I mean, the Big West isn't Power 5, but they're still one of the more notable conferences, especially with powerhouse teams such as Hawaii and Santa Barbara, which will probably be returning a few players, the noteworthy players, and Cal Poly. Long Beach State was kind of looking good, especially with Mia Tuaniga coming in as a freshman. So yeah, I also, because Long Beach State is my school that I attend, and I would like to know what's going to be their fate going forward. So yeah, so now let's get to this news regarding beach volleyball Olympian. So Carrie Walsh Jennings. Oh, I highly doubt most of you haven't listened to this news, but Carrie Walsh Jennings actually didn't wear a mask to a store. Yes, you are hearing that. Let me say that again. Olympic beach volleyball player Carrie Walsh Jennings did not wear a mask to a store in an exercise of being brave. So, long story short, she wanted to not wear a face mask just to be brave, just to basically not to see what other people will think, and just so they don't want to, just in case that she's not going to want to be she doesn't want to like be afraid anymore. And then it's quite fascinating, because she actually posted on Instagram a couple times that she posted a quote first and foremost, that this has not been enforced, it's been contested to, and she also had a quote, which was a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. So, and that she posted that just to prompt her feelings about wearing the mask to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So, yeah, we shall see. I mean, I don't question it. I mean, I don't really question it. I get what she was trying to do, but it somewhat doesn't make sense. Now, here's the actual quote from Ralph Waldo Jennings. Your genuine action will explain itself, and will explain your other genuine actions. Your conformity explains nothing. Ralph Waldo Emerson. So, and this was basically a long post from Instagram, and I'm not going to go over it just because she all she said was, I had a little exercise in being brave yesterday, and I'm still a bit edgy on it. She went shopping without a mask on it, and she basically explains what the quote is. And I get it. I get her wearing the mask, or not wearing the mask, but in a world where lots of people are flipping out, and especially when public facilities such as like grocery stores and restaurants, well, in her case, she went to a grocery store, that they're enforcing masks, it's kind of a little risky. Like, and it would kind of hurt her reputation, but I understand it. Now, a whole lot of people did not understand it. Like, everyone just freaked the frick out. And and she did get bashed for it on social media, and it was kind of a little dicey scene. And eventually, and the day after she did that little exercise, she posted a truce. She waved the white flag, and then she posted truce. And then she says, and quick and dirty, I'm just going to briefly read this or paraphrase this because and it's another long post, and it goes straight into the comment section. So I'm not here to play Mother Goose with y'all. So it wasn't really that funny, though. So, quick and dirty, Carrie Walsh Jennings says, my goodness gracious, to those I've upset so deeply, yeah. To those I've upset so deeply, I am sorry. To those who are open to hearing where I am coming from, I appreciate your openness and civility. To those in agreement, I appreciate your expressing your views. To those calling me dumb, selfish, privileged, and bigoted, and racist, and telling me that you are better than this, I fully acknowledge that addressing such an emotional, layered, nuanced, and polarizing topic on social media was not the smartest thing. I will stop there, and I will say this. At least she acknowledged that, and at least she wasn't afraid to basically come out and say it. It's just that apparently all the negativity like weighed down on her to the point where she basically just had to blow the whistle and just wave the white flag and just say, you know what? I'm sorry. I did this. So yeah, and she goes on to say, pages and pages could not be written about every side of everyone's opinion, yet I went for it because I am alarmed for my country, I am heartbroken for my children, I am devastated for every small business owner who has gone under or who is barely hanging on. And that's really great. I'm glad she acknowledged those that are struggling in terms of businesses and all that. So I'll give her a little bit of applause. Okay, time's up. Back to the whole thing. I've seen so much conflicting and erroneous data from the experts, and on and on and on and on and on. She really didn't say that. I just over-exaggerated. I have researched and I have spoken with experts. This is why I spoke my view. At some point, we should all stop and take inventory of everything that has been thrown our way over the past months and the reaction to these things. If it sits well or well enough with you, great. If not, great. We should all carry on respectfully, in capital letters, living our virtues, standing up for our beliefs, and doing our best to do no harm in doing so. I was not looking to do anything but express my belief that freedom is right worth fighting for, in capital letters, and amidst the chaos, diversiveness, fear, and undeniable emotion of these times, I believe we have to stay mindful of the fact that our freedoms have slowly been taken from us with our consent. By the way, before I continue, I just gotta say these are the thoughts and opinions of myself, not of IE Sports Radio or Long Beach State or any third-party organizations. Back to the whole thing. I feel each of the words I mentioned above, fear, chaos, diversiveness, are being intentionally stoked, and we are becoming a country that I do not recognize. The comment section of my last post is a reflection of where we are at, and it is tragic. I'm not quite sure when we became a world where a differing opinion equates to evil and hatred, but here we are. I'm not advocating for people to stop wearing masks. I wear a mask most often. I don't believe in their efficacy. I think she meant to say effectancy. I don't know. I'm just going to say effectiveness unless it's of a certain caliber. Yet I wear them. I'm advocating critically and civilly. I'm advocating personally, responsibly. Continue below. And she goes on to say this in the comments as well, considering considering there's a lot of Instagram has a character limit, so she did get some positive feedback from other people, such as Brett Favre, former NFL quarterback, saying amen. And then she got some respect from beach volleyball player Brooke Sweat. She did get a little bit of... She also got respect from former teammate Kerry Walsh-Jennings, saying, I staunchly believe we should open up the world and still work to protect the vulnerable. They are not mutually exclusive objectives or goals. Using a mask to express my love of freedom seems a bit shallow and selfish. People, in parentheses, she says, people's health are at play after all, but it is a real thing to point to, and it is the potential starting to point for so much more. I truly believe we are on the slippery slope of a mask mandate evolving into a vaccine mandate. That scares the fire emoji, which I'm not going to say it on, which I know what she's talking about. That scares the daylight out of me. You're going to get the clean version. I know what she's trying to say. With love and respect for all views, all points of view, mostly, even if I disagree. Love, Carrie. And then someone says, I cannot respect your point of view. Wearing a mask is in no way taking away our freedom, and saving lives should be our first priority. You were my hero growing up, and I'm so disappointed. Please, please wear a mask. I'm not going to comment on that. I'm just going to say this. I get her trying to be bold. Like, I in no way think she was trying to do any harm. In her defense, this was an exercise, an experiment. Like, honestly, like, maybe she should have had, like, a little bit of an explanation before doing this whole exercise. Maybe instead of going out there and being bold, she should have at least explained herself before doing the exercise on, like, social media. And then maybe, like, I mean, I don't know what it takes to, like, possibly make... I don't know what it's going to take to, like, please people. It's like, I don't. I really don't. Like, nobody knows. Like, I get that she wasn't trying to hurt people, and she clearly was not. But it is still somewhat of a dicey subject. Like, it all depends on where she was at. Like, if she's in LA, or, like, for the most part in Los Angeles... That's really risky of COVID-19. Like, if it was in Orange County, maybe it would be a little less worse. But you still have to... if I were her, I would have maybe been more cautious of this. I mean, I get what she was trying to do, and... I get what some of these people are trying to say. Wear your mask to slow the spread. But... And I'm not going to get too deep into this, but honestly, I don't think she deserves slander. Like, if you're slandering her for no apparent reason just because she wasn't wearing a mask, I don't know what to say. I'm not going to say it because, again, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I think people are freaking out a little too much over this, okay? I mean, I really think that people were going off the deep end, which is sad. But, again, this was just like an exercise, like a little experiment. And sure enough, people have flipped out and are flipping out, and they're basically, like, they're like all over the place on her. And I feel bad for Kerry Walsh, because I feel she's a great person. But I guess she was caught in the wrong. Like, she was she was in the wrong for this. Like, her heart was in the right place, and her bravery was in the right place, but the consequences just weren't. And again, it depends on where she was at. Like, I don't know where she was fully at. Like, I don't think it's said in the story. Yeah, it doesn't say that she was. Where this story, according to NBC Los Angeles, doesn't say where it was at. So I just hope, I do pray for her, and I hope that that people lay off on her at least a little bit. I personally don't think they should put her under fire or throw her in the fire, but I honestly think that she doesn't deserve slander. Like, all these keyboard warriors need to just close up their laptops or put down their phones and just move on. She's, again, this was just a little experiment. And if I don't want to say if she gets COVID, she gets COVID. Like, that's not of my moral values. Like she should have been cautious of the consequences, but at the same time, she doesn't deserve to be slandered. Like, again, it would have been better if she had just told everybody about this, and then maybe had like a little poll on her Instagram page or something like that. Either way, she's not fully in the wrong, so everyone needs to stop taking it out on her or just being outraged at her. Otherwise, she's gonna eventually go private. So that's just my little take on this whole thing. Again, these are the opinions and thoughts of myself, Teran Rodriguez, and not of IE Sports Radio and all that. So I think that's a good point to take a little break and just get some air and just to step back for a minute and just take ourselves a little break. And when we get back, I'll be previewing the rest of the NCAA women's volleyball games that will be happening this weekend. So you are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Drivers, start your engines. Auto racing takes many forms, from the close quarter contact of NASCAR
to the high-speed, high-risk atmosphere of IndyCar,
all the way to the pinnacle of technology with the Formula One World Championship.
No matter if you prefer the high banks of Daytona,
the concrete canyons of Long Beach,
or the flowing curves of the Nürburgring,
the international language of motorsports is simple. Go fast,
run hard,
and come home first.
So join us, myself, Darrell Kinsey Jr.,
Lolita Camello,
and Michael Ward,
on a world tour of all the best motorsports has to offer on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, only on your home for all. That is sports. IE Sports Radio.
From the home plate to the nets, the end zone to the finish line, here nothing is off limits and no sport is safe. Not what it seems, with your host Caitlin Seam, bringing you sports like you've never heard before. Catch me Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on IE Sports Radio. The only question is, are you ready?
And we are back for the second segment of Set Point. Like I said, this is Teran Rodriguez. I hope I wasn't too political when it came to that last topic. It's not that I'm defending what she did. I mean, what she did wasn't heinous or anything. It's not like she gave someone COVID. It's not like Kerry Walsh-Jennings gave someone COVID, but I think people just need to, stay off their iPhones, stay off their laptops, and give Kerry Walsh a break. I mean, just my opinion. So we're just going to move on from that topic and go back to what we were doing before this whole volleyball news broke out. Or the volleyball news that I decided to go into. And that's preview the volleyball matches for this week. So now, for September 12th, on the Saturday, we have UTEP at Texas State again. Texas State in 3. I mean, maybe UTEP takes a set off of Texas State, but I definitely got to take Texas State to win. So there's that. South Alabama at Louisiana. I got to go with the Ragin' Cajuns. So, yeah, that's my pick. Louisiana over South Alabama. Arkansas State at Central Arkansas. I'll take Arkansas State. I think Central Arkansas will beat Little Rock, but they won't beat Ark State. So that's just my thing. Georgia State at Chattanooga. Now, Chattanooga is in Alabama, and Georgia is in Georgia. I'll take Georgia State for that one. I don't really know how... I'm going to be honest, I don't know how good Chattanooga is, but I will say I'm pretty sure Georgia State is better. So... I mean, they play in the Sun Belt Conference, and then Chattanooga is an independent team because of COVID, so there's that. Louisiana Monroe versus Houston Baptist. I wasn't feeling Houston Baptist last week. They took a set off of Louisiana, but that was because they kind of knew what to expect from Louisiana. And they almost pushed Louisiana to a 5th set, but... I don't know, man. I'm going to go safe and pick Louisiana Monroe. Probably in 5. They've got Houston Baptist at Stephen F. Austin. I'm definitely going with Stephen F. Austin. I highly doubt Houston Baptist survives against Stephen F. Austin, especially if it's at Stephen F. Austin. So give me them. The Citadel at Mercer. Now we're getting into the really interesting matchups. The Citadel at Mercer. I guess I'll take Mercer. And then Lamar at Stephen F. Austin. No doubt about it. I'm taking Stephen F. Austin. I definitely gotta record these picks just so I'm not slacking or I'm not possibly cheating, because I definitely want to make this. I want to make this whole picking thing fun, just because it would be great to see what I got wrong and what I got right, and then we'll see how I do at the end of the whole shortened season, or whatever the whole end of the season is, whether it's going to be in the spring or whether it's going to be in the fall. It's more than likely going to be in the spring because fall sports championships have been postponed. So that's just me, and just gonna so yeah, that's just my thing. And there is a game on Sunday, a volleyball match on Sunday. Arkansas State at Central Arkansas. Ooh. Tough one. A team that's named Arkansas is going to win. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Give me Arkansas State. I'll take Arkansas State to win that. I don't know too much about some of these schools, but I'm just going to go Ark State. I mean, Central Arkansas does have the matchup as played already, but me personally, and they probably will have beaten Little Rock, but this will be their third straight game. They're going to be gassed as heck. So give me Arkansas State to sweep the season series against Central Ark. So nothing against. Hey, I mean, I don't want this to happen, but that's just me personally. I think Ark State is going to beat these worn down Central Arkansas. So that's pretty much my my picks for this week. So just to recap, On Friday, I have Texas State over UTEP, Louisiana over South Alabama, Central Arkansas over Little Rock, Lamar over Louisiana Monroe, Stephen F. Austin over Louisiana Monroe, and Stephen F. Austin over Lamar. Those are Friday's matchups. On Saturday's matchups, on the 12th, I have Texas State over UTEP again, Louisiana over South Alabama again, Arkansas State over Central Arkansas, Georgia State over Chattanooga, Louisiana Monroe over Houston Baptist, Stephen F. Austin over Houston Baptist, Mercer over Citadel, and Stephen F. Austin over Lamar. And then on Sunday, I have Arkansas State over Central Arkansas. So here's hoping I go 15-0. And again, I definitely want to make this fun, because it would be funny if someone was like, oh, you didn't predict this one right, or this didn't age well. Come on, Teran. It would be funny. It would be funny. But again, I'm not choosing against teams just because I hate that certain team. I'm choosing against teams just because I'm going with my gut. Like, when it comes to like when teams like get into conference play, like further deeper into conference play, I think that's when I'm probably going to go in depth, because we're only in the first few stages of the volleyball season. So that's just my little spiel right there, and I really can't wait till the season starts going into full swing. Like, we're obviously getting some good matchups, but like Texas State and Stephen F. Austin was probably the match of the week, in my opinion, just because those two teams were NCAA teams that lost in the first round, and it's kind of a Texas rivalry. So, quick and dirty, I think that was probably the matchup of the week last week. And for good reason, because it's a mini rivalry game, and what's more to like than rivalry games? Well, at least like an interstate rivalry. So that's just me though, but I think this season, once the season like gets like further and further into like the full swing of things, like when it comes to like the ACC starting its conference play, and then the Big 12 starting its conference play, and then eventually the SEC starting its conference play, then we're going to get real in-depth when it comes to these previews. And it's not just going to be me going off the fly. So that's just me, however, but I really am glad we've got some volleyball back. Like, me personally, I couldn't be more happy that we have volleyball again, because if not, then I probably either would be not having a show, or I wouldn't have had a show on Saturday, or I'd be trying to find guests at the last minute. So, speaking of which, I'm going to be talking about that toward the end of the show as well. So yeah, I'm very excited. Unfortunately, we have no SEC teams releasing their women's volleyball schedules, which really has me chomping at the bits. I really am looking forward, but it's probably going to be like a shortened conference season. It's probably going to be 8 games, just like the ACC. Some teams I think have promise are Miami. Definitely Pittsburgh for sure. Florida State looks promising. Louisville looks good, and then Notre Dame is pretty solid as well. The problem with Notre Dame is that their conference games are against Pitt and Louisville, both of which had pretty good NCAA volleyball runs last year. So I don't know what to expect, but I hope I don't know what to expect when it comes to the ACC. Like, what's going to happen if two teams finish 8-8, but they didn't face one another? Are their tiebreakers going to go by points? Are they going to go by number of sets won? What's it going to go by? Like, it's just food for thought on my part, but again, I talked about this last week, and I'm going to talk about this again. I don't know what's going to happen, so it's going to be very fun to see what's going to happen. Maybe they'll have like a little bit of a one-match tiebreaker at a neutral site. I don't know. But I feel there should have been like a little bit of an ACC tournament. Just like there is in like other conference tournaments, like the Sun Belt Conference. Like, I still gotta give it up for the Sun Belt Conference having a freaking conference tournament despite all that's been going on. Like, every team is gonna travel to like wherever they go, whether it's Coastal Carolina, Texas State, Little Rock, Arkansas. I don't know where they're going to travel. Heck, they could probably travel to the bubble in Florida for all we know to play in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, which wouldn't be a bad idea. Like, I'd be happy to see the Sun Belt Conference playing in the bubble where they're not going to risk catching COVID. So that is something worth noting as well, but I don't know. All I know is that as long as Texas State doesn't get to see a whole lot of, like, to me, I think Texas State has a good shot at going undefeated in this little, like, spat of matches. The problem with Texas State going undefeated is that they won't have had too much competition, because we go back to Mr. Volleyball docket here, and we go to Sun Belt Conference. They did get a tough, gritty 5-set match against Central Arkansas, but that was kind of the case because them having going 5 with Central Arkansas was because that it was the first matchup of the year. Like, what can you do? Like, you're the first team that takes the court. It's somewhat early, and you're playing volleyball for like the first time since last December. So that's a big layoff, and you got pressure against an opponent, and you have a new head coach because Karen Cheeseum retired after 40 plus years. So that's one of the reasons why I think Texas State can go undefeated. UTEP can't really challenge them. Houston Baptist can't really challenge them. I don't see Louisiana Monroe beating them. Maybe taking a set off them, possibly. But again, it all depends on how these three series matches go on, and if they take a toll on their bodies. So, and I don't see UT Arlington really giving them a challenge. Louisiana is going to be the fun match. I really think Louisiana can give Texas State a little trouble, just because Louisiana has been impressive, and Texas State has to play at Louisiana. The problem is that Louisiana is not going to have any fans. I'm pretty sure no one's going to have fans at their games, and if they are, then it's probably going to be at minimum capacity. So we'll see how it goes. We shall see how it goes. So, and then I'll see Little Rock giving Texas State a challenge. UT Arlington's not going to give Texas State a challenge, and Arkansas State's not going to give a challenge. Then Sun Belt Conference, it all depends. Like, if Texas State is fully healthy, they're on a roll, and they've beaten everybody, they're undefeated going into the Sun Belt Conference, I could see them winning that conference tournament. But that's way too far ahead. That's like all the way in November. Like, that's not until like Thanksgiving, like near Thanksgiving, and then we still have to wonder what's going to happen after the Sun Belt Conference and what happens after the dust settles. So we don't know what's going to happen going forward after this whole conference tournament spiel. So all the answers will be answered next Wednesday with the NCAA Division I committee. So anyway, we're pretty much coming at the end. It's going to be a shorter show than normal, but just because I do have stuff to do that's volleyball related. So I actually do need to finish up with this other news. It's not volleyball news, but it is news regarding a possible volleyball team and a possible volleyball team losing its volleyball team and the other athletics on the school. This comes from UC Riverside in the Big West, which, if for those of you that don't know, UC Riverside is thinking about cutting out athletics because of COVID-19. The school issued the athletic department issued a little bit of a note. Dear alumni, supporters, fans, and fellow Highlanders, UC Riverside has announced it is experiencing significant budget constraints caused by the recent economic downturn, and meaningful budget cuts are approaching. Although no decisions have been made at UC Riverside Athletics specifically, as coaches, we are committed more than ever to speaking out and increasing our resolve in supporting student athletes to protect their academic and athletic future. I have always believed in the mission of UC Riverside, and I am truly inspired by the young, diverse group of women that I have the privilege of leading every day. As a unified team, we vow to remain confident that our program will come out of this difficult time stronger than ever. Your support is essential, and very important to us as we look to make our voices heard on how our athletics department and UC Riverside women's volleyball program positively impacts the community, the university, and the student body. We are UC Riverside, and we belong. Thank you, and hashtag keep UC Riverside athletics. This comes from the UC Riverside women's volleyball coach, Michelle Patton Coleman. So the full story is on the UC Riverside athletics department website. So now my thoughts on that. Now I obviously quote tweeted that through the Set Point account and the SoCal Supreme Sports Show account. So my thoughts on that. It would really suck to see UC Riverside lose all of its athletics. And also, Alan Knipe even quote-tweeted something from UC Riverside, from some coach of UC Riverside. And he said, keep UC Riverside athletics. And I'm glad he's in support of the Big West, because at the end of the day, we're all family, and sports bring us together. Back to UC Riverside. I'd hate to see their athletics department go away. Like, it would be sad. I don't want that to happen. So, it's because of this tough time that COVID, with the whole COVID and with how everything's going, that we're going to be losing. We could be losing athletics, because it was one thing to lose the Stanford men's volleyball program and the other 10 sports that were dropped from the Stanford athletic program. But for UC Riverside to lose all of its athletic program, that would not be fun. And I like having UC Riverside in the Big West Conference. I mean, I believe they won a NCAA Division II championship. So I'd hate for UC Riverside athletics to lose anything, because what's going to happen to all the volleyball players? Okay, so let's go through this scenario. What happens if UC Riverside has to cut its athletics? UC Riverside cuts its athletics, and then what's going to happen to all the players in Riverside that want to go to UC Riverside? Or all the women's volleyball players that are at Riverside City College? Where are they going to go to? They're going to have to find new schools to go to, like Cal Baptist or Occidental College or something along the lines of that. Either way, it's going to hurt the UC Riverside athletes, because they're going to want to transfer, because they're all going to be panicking and be like, oh my god, UC Riverside might cut its athletic program. That's just what I would think. So I hope UC Riverside does everything in its power to keep its athletic program, because it would suck to have one less team when it comes to volleyball. I mean, Cal Baptist had to cut their men's volleyball team, and that was a sad day in America. And then Stanford's men's volleyball team is going to cut their men's volleyball team, or Stanford is going to cut the men's volleyball team at the end of the 2021 season. So, which students might not even get because of COVID. And again, we still need to wonder what's going to happen with spring sports. So a lot of questions still remain unanswered, and hopefully we will be able to get more answers as the weeks progress. I hope, and I really, really hope we do get to see, I really hope we don't get any more volleyball cuts, or any athletic cuts in general. So that's just me. So we'll see how it goes, but right now, I think that's going to do it for today's episode of Set Point. I pretty much went through the previews. I previewed and made my predictions for every matchup. I didn't really preview that much, but I pretty much recapped who won what games on Saturday, because I did a show on Saturday. For those of you that might not have heard last Saturday's show, Texas State went 2-0, beating Central Arkansas and Stephen F. Austin. Louisiana went 2-0, beating Houston Baptist last Friday and last Saturday. On the independent side, Stephen F. Austin split their two games. They beat Central Arkansas but lost to Texas State. Central Arkansas lost to Texas State and Stephen F. Austin. Houston Baptist lost to Louisiana. And those were all the matches that played. So, quick and dirty, you didn't really miss much. We only had we didn't have too many games go on last week. So, again, that's pretty much dipping our toe in the volleyball season from last Friday and last Saturday. This week, the games are going to start to progress, and eventually we're going to start to see more conferences get into the mix. Like, it's only 2 weeks until the ACC start its season, and then that's also the same week that the Big 12 start their season as well. And except that our Syracuse will be facing Army on the 18th or the 19th of September, and then we have Duke playing Wake Forest, and then Clemson playing Citadel, and then that's very interesting. And then Virginia Tech playing Citadel, so we've got some interesting things. We've got some interesting developments going forward. So all of this is probably going to be answered next week when it comes to Set Point. But that's going to do it for tonight's episode of Set Point. We didn't really reach the hour mark, but it's whatever. Next week is the Season 1 finale of Set Point, and I do plan to have a guest or guests. Probably, if I am going to be doing my show on Tuesday, I'll probably just have one guest. But if I have to move the show around, then so be it. Then maybe I will have two guests. I hope to have two guests, and I hope to have two specific guests in general. I reached out to them and haven't heard from them, so I hope we get to have the two specific guests that I reached out to. Crossing my fingers, and if you see anything on Twitter from the IE Sports Radio Twitter account or the IE Sports Radio Instagram account, then who knows, maybe we got him. But right now, it's time to drop the beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. If you are listening on the live stream, I appreciate you tuning in. If you are listening on the replay, then I also appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for your support of IE